He hired me to walk his dog. Simple as that. $100 a week, 1 hour a day, easy money, right? But on the 4th day, that dog led me somewhere I wasn't supposed to go, right to the edge of his backyard, where the grass stopped growing, and something just beneath the dirt caught the sunlight. I reached down, thinking it was a toy, but what I pulled up was a gold watch, engraved with initials I didn't recognize, buried like someone wanted it forgotten. Then I looked up and realized I was being watched, not by the dog, by him. That's when I knew this wasn't just some rich guy with a weird schedule and a quiet house. There were secrets here, and I had just touched one. I should have walked away, but I didn't, and what I uncovered next changed everything. Not just about him, but about myself and the life I thought I'd always be stuck living. I wasn't looking for trouble. I was just trying to survive. Every morning started the same: cracked phone alarm, cold floor, instant coffee if we had any left. I lived in a tiny apartment with my mom and little brother. Rent was overdue again. Mom worked double shifts at the diner. I did whatever I could, odd jobs, delivery gigs, sometimes just selling stuff online to make a few bucks. College, that dream died after 1 semester. We needed money more than I needed a degree. There were nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this was it, if I'd spend the rest of my life just getting by. Never enough time, never enough money, never a way out. So when I saw the ad, dog walker needed, private client, high pay, I didn't hesitate. Didn't matter who it was. Rich people always needed help and paid well to keep their hands clean. It sounded simple: walk a dog, keep quiet. And for the first time in months, I'd have a little breathing room. I told myself it was just a job, nothing more. But something about that first day felt off. The house wasn't just big, it was silent, like it was holding its breath. The owner barely spoke, just gave me the leash, the rules, and a stare that lasted a second too long. Still, I didn't care. I needed the money. I didn't ask questions, didn't poke around. I just walked the dog, kept my head down, and tried to ignore the feeling in my gut. Because back then, I didn't know the truth, that this job, this house, this dog, they weren't just part of some rich man's routine. They were part of a secret, one that was about to pull me into something I never saw coming. The house sat at the very end of a long, private road tucked behind iron gates and lined with trees that probably cost more than my entire apartment. When I first got there, I thought I had the wrong address. Everything was too perfect. The grass, the silence, even the way the breeze moved through the hedges, it all felt unreal, like I'd accidentally walked into a movie set. Then the front door opened. He stood there tall, quiet, expensive looking. No smile, just a cold nod. He handed me the leash, gave me the rules in a tone that didn't invite questions. Walk the dog around the back trail. Don't go near the shed. Don't enter the house. Be back in 45 minutes. That was it. No small talk. No welcome. Just a man and his dog. But the dog was different. Big, quiet, alert, like it had seen things. It didn't pull or bark. It just walked beside me like it knew the route better than I did. As we moved through the backyard, I couldn't stop staring. There was a pool bigger than my entire building, sculptures that looked like they belonged in a museum, and rows of flowers so perfect they didn't seem real. It felt like stepping into another planet. Everything clean, everything controlled, everything expensive. But the more I looked, the more I noticed something else. No laughter. No music. No sign of life. Just silence. I remember thinking this kind of wealth should feel powerful, but it felt lonely. Like the house was full of ghosts. Still, I told myself again, this was just a job. Walk the dog, get paid, go home. But deep down, I already knew I was in a world that wasn't meant for me, and that never ends well. It started small, little things most people wouldn't notice. On my second week, the dog pulled me toward the back corner of the yard toward that shed he told me to stay away from. At first, I didn't think much of it. Dogs are curious, right? But this was different. The dog didn't sniff or bark. It just stood there, staring at the door. I tugged on the leash. It didn't move. It just kept looking, ears pinned back, like it remembered something. Or someone. The shed itself looked normal. Old wooden, locked with a thick chain and a rusted padlock. But there were scratch marks on the door, deep ones, like something or someone had tried to claw their way out. I laughed it off, told myself it was probably just animals. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about it. The next day, I noticed cameras, lots of them, not facing out, like you'd expect from a mansion trying to protect itself from the outside world. They were turned inward, pointing at the yard, the shed, the dog trail. Why would a man like that need to watch his own backyard 24/7? And then there was the toy, a small plastic truck, half buried near the garden bed. Old, sun-faded, forgotten. No kids lived there. I was sure of that. The house was too still, too cold. I picked it up, wiped the dirt off, and that's when I saw it. Tiny initials scratched into the bottom, not the owner's. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing back everything in my head: the shed, the cameras, the toy, the dog's strange behavior. I started asking quiet questions, nothing direct, just casual stuff. I asked a gardener if the owner had a family. He looked up for half a second, then mumbled, "Used to." Didn't say anything else. The mail carrier told me no one ever got letters there. Everything was handled through a private service, and the few times I passed neighbors, they'd either glance away or look at me like I shouldn't be there. Everywhere I turned, I found more questions. And the more I looked, the less things made sense. This wasn't just some rich guy with secrets. It felt like a whole life had been erased here, like someone had scrubbed the story clean but missed a few pieces. And I was starting to pick them up one by one. I should have let it go, take the money, walk the dog, and keep my head down. But curiosity is a dangerous thing, especially when your life feels stuck and you finally catch a glimpse of something bigger, something that doesn't make sense. I couldn't help myself. I started digging. The first thing I did was search his name online. Nothing came up. No social media, no company records, not even an old interview. Just a couple of vague property records and a photo from a charity event years ago. It was like he didn't exist before a certain point. Then I noticed something strange about the photo. In the background, there was a woman and two kids. One of the kids was holding that same plastic toy truck I found buried in the yard. That's when it hit me: this wasn't just a forgotten object. It belonged to someone who used to live there. And now, they didn't. The next day, I let the dog lead the way. I didn't guide it. I didn't speak. I just followed. It circled the yard once, then went straight to a patch of dirt behind the shed. Same spot where I found the watch. This time, I dug deeper. My fingers hit a box. An old metal one, sealed with duct tape and rust. I looked around. No cameras in sight. At least, none I could see. I opened it. Inside were photos. A woman, two kids, him. Smiling, happy, real. But then the dates on the backs, they stopped all at once. There was also a military medal and an ID with a completely different name. Not the name I knew him by. That night, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. What kind of person changes their name, hides their past, and buries it in their own backyard? I decided to talk to a retired groundskeeper I had seen a few times outside the estate. He hesitated at first, then said one thing: he didn't buy that house. He inherited it after the original family disappeared. No more, no less. That was the moment I realized I was in way deeper than I thought. This wasn't just about some secrets or a broken family. Something darker had happened here, and I was standing right in the middle of it. I knew I had to choose: walk away while I still could, or keep going and risk finding something I could never unsee. I made my choice, and it changed everything. It all came crashing down the day he caught me near the shed. I thought he wasn't home. He usually left round noon in his matte black car and didn't return until evening. But that day, as I leaned down by the shed door, trying to match the scratch marks with the dog's paw size, I heard footsteps. Heavy, calm, to calm. I turned around, and there he was, standing just a few feet away, arms crossed, eyes locked on me like he already knew everything. "What are you doing?" he asked. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the air like a knife. My heart was pounding. I tried to play it off, said the dog had led me there. that I was just curious. He didn't blink, didn't move. Then he said something I didn't expect. "You shouldn't be here. You have no idea what this place is." There was no yelling, no threats, just a low, quiet warning. Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. Not because it was angry, but because it wasn't. He wasn't surprised. He wasn't scared. He was prepared. He pulled out a check twice. The amount I'd earned. Ann told me not to come back. Take it. Forget the dog. Forget this house. Move on. And I almost did. I almost walked away. But later that night, the dog showed up outside my apartment building. No leash, no collar. Its paw was bleeding. Its eyes were wide and frantic, like it had run for miles. That was it. I knew something was wrong. And I knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. This wasn't just about secrets buried in a backyard. It was about someone trying to erase a life, rewrite a story, and silence anyone who got too close. I realized I wasn't just snooping, I was being pulled into something bigger. And now, I wasn't sure if I was the one investigating, or the next loose end he needed to cut. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I went to the local records office. If I was going to figure this out, I needed to stop guessing. I searched the property's address. It took a while, but finally, I found it, an old report buried in scanned archives from over a decade ago. It was a missing persons case. A woman named Mariah Lane, 2 children. They had lived in that house, the same one I'd been walking a dog around for weeks. There were no signs of struggle, no bodies found. Just gone. The case went cold. And then, 3 years later, the house was inherited by a man with a different name, the same man who hired me. I looked up the name on the ID I found in the box. James Teller, a decorated war veteran, discharged under mysterious conditions. Vanished around the same time the family disappeared. Something snapped into place. He didn't buy the house, he took it. He didn't lose a family, he replaced them. And the photos I found buried in the yard, they weren't just memories, they were evidence. I reached out to the only person left who might talk, the retired groundskeeper. This time, I didn't ask questions. I just showed him the photo of the family. He stared at it for a long time. Then he said, "That's the real owner. She used to sit by the roses every morning with her kids." He pointed to the flower bed near the shed, the day they disappeared. The roses were all trampled. That was all I needed. I took everything, the photos, the toy truck, the fake ID, and went to the local police. At first, they didn't believe me. Why would they? I was just some broke dog walker with a wild story. But once they saw the photos, and the military record that didn't match the man currently living there, everything changed. They reopened the case, and when they went to the house with a warrant, they found more. Much more. Hidden behind a false wall in the basement were clothes, toys, even school papers, belongings that should have never been there. It confirmed what I feared most. He had been living someone else's life, keeping the house, the dog, even the garden. Like he could pretend the real story never happened. But the truth has a way of clawing its way back up, especially when it's buried just beneath the surface. The night after they took him away, I sat on the front steps of that mansion, staring at the garden. It didn't look eerie anymore. It looked sad. For weeks, I thought I was just walking a dog. I didn't know I was walking through someone else's stolen life. They told me the investigation would take months, that there were more questions than answers. But one thing was clear, he wasn't who he claimed to be. And that family, they never left on their own. The dog was taken in by a local shelter, but not for long. I visited him every day until they let me adopt him. They said he was too attached to me to go anywhere else. Funny how life works. One ad, one walk, one backyard, and suddenly everything I knew about the world flipped upside down. I went back to school after that, applied for a scholarship, told my story in the essay. They called it remarkable. I called it real life. I started volunteering with missing persons organizations. Sometimes it's not about solving everything. Sometimes it's about asking the question no one else is willing to, looking a little closer, listening when something feels off. I still don't know why he did it. Loneliness, jealousy, something darker. But in the end, his silence told me everything I needed to know. Because when you bury the truth, it always finds a way back. Through a toy truck, a scratch on a door, or a dog that just wouldn't stop digging. And for me, that walk was never just about the dog. It was about finding something buried inside myself, to the belief that maybe, just maybe, one person can make a difference. Sometimes, the biggest changes in our lives come quietly, not with a dramatic moment or a grand decision, but with something as simple as answering a random job ad. I didn't go looking for a mystery. I was just trying to survive, make enough to pay rent, eat something decent, feel like I mattered, even just a little. But life has a strange way of revealing what we're capable of, especially when we step into places that don't feel made for us. Places where we're told to stay quiet, stay in our lane, follow the rules. The truth is, I was never supposed to find what I found. But maybe that's why I did, because I didn't belong there. I saw what others couldn't, or what they chose to ignore. If you take anything from this story, let it be this: pay attention to the people who go unnoticed, to the spaces that feel too perfect, to the moments that don't sit right in your gut. You don't have to be rich, powerful, or trained to make a difference. Sometimes, all it takes is being willing to ask the question no one else will. To stay curious, to care. Because the truth is rarely loud. It's quiet, buried, waiting for someone brave enough to dig it up.